Welcome, and thank you for joining us from your home for the second annual Parenting Learning event presented by Burnaby Family Life in collaboration this year with the Burnaby Public Library. We are grateful for the opportunity to live, work, and play and host this virtual event on the unceded ancestral homeland of the Coast Salish people, Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and Musqueam nations. My name is Nancy Grenier. I work at Burnaby Family Life, a charity that has been providing services to families and individuals in need in our community for the past 50 years. Every year, we organize a parenting learning event, and this year we are bringing you the event online in collaboration with the Burnaby Public Library. We bring this to you with funding from the BC Ministry of Children and Family Development, and thanks to that support, we're able to bring you the event for free. We also want to do a shout out and thank Gary and Sandra Wilson at What's on Burnaby for their support and for the promotion of the event. So every Thursday night at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we'll be here with a new speaker, new discussion, new topic, to talk about something that's important to families. And these topics were selected with input from the parents who participate in our programs at Burnaby Family Life, and also with input from a steering committee comprising of education and community leaders. So we're grateful for everyone's input. We hope you're going to find this interesting. This year will be a 4-part event. So as I mentioned, every Thursday night. We really want to hear from you. If there's any ideas you have, any suggestions on how we can make things better, please let us know. You can reach us through bflgrowscommunity.org. And also, if you don't have time to stay with us tonight, the program is scheduled to run until 8 o'clock. If this is too much time for you to dedicate to us, then please access the recording on the website, so you'll be able to watch the session at your convenience. So get comfortable, and let's go over to Sangeeta, who's going to get us started with tonight's program.
Thank you, Nancy, and welcome everyone. Tonight is our last session of the PLE 2021, and the topic is belonging to the village. This is our take on it takes a village to raise a child. Children are the responsibility of their parents, but there is a crucial role that community plays in the development of our children. And so we see the village as the community that can both support and receive from parents who are looking for meaningful connections and that contribute to family health. In a village, everyone contributes, everyone benefits, and everyone belongs. For this last session of the PLE 2021, we are going to hear from 3 people about their tips for meaningful connection to community. We have a parent, a family life education facilitator who works directly with parents, and also from a community school coordinator who also works with families. All will share their experience over the past year and tips on how to stay resilient through and beyond the pandemic. Sinem will start the session with her perspective as a parent. Sinem is a mom, a wife, a teacher, and a published author whose family moved to Burnaby from Germany in the summer of 2019. So she's going to share how and why connecting to community was important for her and her family. After Sinem, we have Maya Mihailovich, who will share with us her key learnings of experience as an experienced professional and a facilitator of family life education programs with the Burnaby Family Life for over 20 years. She's an experienced professional who also has first-hand experience at landing in a new community with her family and finding ways to grow roots in a new place. Maya works every day with families who are trying to connect to the community, and she will provide practical tips for families. We then have Gayle Beavil, an educator and community school coordinator, and she will speak to the benefits of relationships and strong community connections to our mental and physical well-being, and offer suggestions and practical ideas for families. In her work as Burnaby Community School Coordinator, Gayle works with families, both long-term residents and also families who come from all over the world to our community, and she helps them establish connections that benefit the entire family. Following Gayle, we will hear from Vicky Donahue of the Burnaby Public Library, and then we'll reconvene for a discussion with our three speakers. So don't go away. And for that segment, we'll be able to receive your questions in the comment section. So without wasting another minute, let's go to Sinem to get the program started.
Thank you, Sangeeta. Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be with you and join the last session of our PLE 2021. So today I will explain a little bit of my experience from the day of the first day in being in Canada. So when we arrived in Canada, it was a shock for me to have no connection. We do not know nobody and nothing, and we know only the hotel in which we are going to, and then after the hotel I have no idea, okay, what's going on now? We will see step by step what's happening, and I have lots of question marks, but I don't know about the big question marks. They will come in the next time in my brain, to my brain. So afterwards, we moved to our place, and then I started to look for some connections, like the playground. Playground is a nice place to make connections. There are children, there are moms and dads, there are families, dogs, and whatever. Everybody is there in the park, and really it's working. But there was a problem. I can't understand them really, because my English skills wasn't so good. And I tried to understand them from the body language, and it was a difficult work. And you say, oh God, you have only a week, but you have to start quickly. So I looked for something educational for my son and me as soon as possible, and asked Uncle Google to make me some offers, right? So I found the Burnaby Family Life website, and I was reading, but couldn't understand really, and I was thinking, okay, your English skills are not enough, so you can't understand it right. So it says it's for free. Oh, how can it be free? This kind of support, and it's free. Then I was reading. Afterwards, I applied quickly. It was the end of June or the beginning of July. I was applying for one course. And then I was going again to the playground to make other connections, because I have time until October when the session is starting. So I learned about Strong Start BC. To be honest, I have no idea what that is. I looked again and searched again from the internet and tried to understand, but couldn't understand. So I looked for some schools which has the Strong Start program and go to the schools, but there was another problem. It was the summertime, and in summertime schools are closed, and I can't find anyone to ask what's going on, what I have to do. It was, now I'm laughing about that, but it was really a hard time for me, because I have nobody to ask. And I was really confusing. How can a school close and I can't find anyone at school, and I called them and nobody's answering me, and oh my goodness, that was a hard time. So I go back to the park to make my other connections, and it works really. I learned really I learned really a lot of things in the playground from other parents. So until September, the end of September, from June to this time, it was a really dark time for me, because I have lots of question marks in my head. My child, Toprak, my son, he was 2.5, he's growing, and with his growing, he's starting to make trouble. He wasn't before in that way. He was a sweet little one boy, and then afterwards, then he starts to screaming, to crying, to pushing, and toys are flying everywhere from that corner to the other corner, and he was getting frustrated so quickly, and I have no patience. He hasn't got any patience. It was really a hard time for me, a dark time. I feel really weird and lost. But then my phone rings. It was Burnaby Family Life, and I saw the light when I hear that the class is starting next week. So I was really excited, like today, and joined the class. And so I learned a lot. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about parenting, about Canada, about connections, and I get lots of friends. I learned about the long waiting list for daycares, which I never heard before. And then I let my English skills growing up. That was helping for me. That was really good. I was so happy about that. But the most important thing is for sure the parenting part for me, because I can't understand my son. I mean, it was my son and he is a part of me, but he is totally different and it's not like before. So I need help. So I learned to understand him. I learned to be much more patient. I had to have much more patience for him because his brain is developing and it's working totally different than our brains, right? But I mean, I am a teacher, but I never work with this age, and that's a totally different world, totally different. So I learned quickly, but to practicing, that takes me a long time. That was really slowly. It takes me time, but I learned that I need that time to understand what I learn. So I have to, the first step is, so I have to support myself. Thank my supporters, I get that, and I learned a lot. And when I joined this class, I learned that I am not the perfect one, and I can't manage all his bad behavior and control him, and it's impossible. So and I learned to give me more time to understand everything and to be slow, because toddlers are slow. They are learning slowly, step by step, and I have to learn this as well. I know that, but I have to really learn that. And I learned that I'm not the only one who can teach him the whole world and the whole life. It's the connection. I have to do that with the connection that I made, the environment. So that feels me really good, because I hear the wise adage years ago, but I can't understand that. It says that it takes a village to raise a child. That teach me a lot. I really understand that. And it's so meaningful for me. It's so, it's told me a lot. So it's without support, it would be really painful to try him to teach something. I need support. I know that. And so that's the thing. I feel really happy to found Burnaby Family Life and to share my experience with you. And I was thinking before that he is doing that on purpose. That was the thing I learned as well. That was really important for me, because before I was thinking, oh yeah, he's a clever guy, he knows that, and he's making that on purpose. No, it's not that way. I learned that. So, and I learned lots of things. But the problem was, I learned, but it was slowly, the practicing. So sometimes I feel guilty about that. I mean, mothers are feeling guilty. That's normal. That's in lots of mothers are feeling that. But in that case, I feel really bad and sad about that. And I think I have to do something. And my husband is a psychologist, so I have the big chance to have my doctor here with me at home, but it's not enough. So support was for me really enough. Burnaby Family Life, Strong Start BC, and Information Children, which I joined some classes of them with my husband as well, was really helpful for me. And so I go to this way with lots of support, so I feel really safe. And I'm really, really happy about that. So after the time without any connection, I have many connection, and 6 days in the week I was full, going with my son and the stroller to this to this course, to this class, to this play group, to this one, and I was really fit. Now I put waste on me, that's but put much more on me, but it was a nice experience for me, for my son, and for my husband as well. And for sure, it was a hard time. It cost me lots of energy and tears as well. It was hard. I mean, it's still hard, but not like before. I see the light, so it's okay. And I figured out that I have to do something for myself afterwards. And I tried to knit and do crochets on something and understand again, okay, knitting, crochets, connections, okay, to make nice connection means that I have, when I'm getting ready, a nice jacket for me, which keep me warm and protect me from freezing. With freezing, I'm meaning to be alone, to be not connected with people, and to live not healthy without connections. So is that for me really important to make connections, and I think for everyone. I will show you that on this, with this frame, and this is the connection what I'm doing. And if I'm making more and more connections and more, okay, it's a little bit too much. Never too much. And then you join your son and your family, and everybody is coming, and for sure, so in this way and that way, you have your, okay, it doesn't look so pretty much, but it's a nice frame. You can build on it, you can do something on it, and then you can live your life healthier and beautifuler. Thank you so much. Now I think it's Maya's turn.
Thank you, Sinem. And thank you, and hello, thank you everyone that you are being here tonight with us. I know that this is a busy time of the day when the kids, young kids, are having dinners and bath and everything. That's what my grandchild is doing, but I really appreciate you guys being here. And I hoped so much that I'm going to see you guys and everyone else in person by now. But here we are. So last year was terrible. You know that. It was a nightmare. We're still not awake from that nightmare. But what I feel is that you and me, our generations, are really writing an important page in the world history. So one day when you're gray and old, you can sit with your teenagers, grandchildren, and you can tell them, you know, a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far out, whatever, we had this COVID thing, and it was terrible, and it alternated lives. It killed so many people, but you know what? The humankind prevailed. And how did we do that? Because we were together. Because we were thrown into this storm together. And no, not in the same boat. Because, you know, some people are in the boat and some people are in the yacht and some people are barely swimming, holding their heads up. But you know what? We are together. The boaters, the yachters, the swimmers, everybody get together. We join together our brains, our money, our time, whatever we had. And that's how we are going to go through this together. So humankind, humans are meant to be together. They meant to have multiple strong relationships with other humans, with nature, with animals, with the world around them. And even research science shows that extreme loneliness raises the level of cortisol in your blood. And the cortisol is, you know what, it's responsible for, you know, irregular heartbeat, high blood pressure, anxiety, depression, and, you know, the fat around your mid-waist. Yep, that's cortisol too. So what do we need in this pandemic? We need to be strong and healthy. We need to be capable to fight this virus. And the cortisol affects our immune system too. So no good, not good at all. The most important thing why you guys need to stay connected, and you know, I'm parent facilitator. I have to talk to you about parenting and kids a little bit. So the most important thing is your children really need connections for their fully growth and development. The children need to have strong and healthy multiple relationship with people of multiple different ages in their lives. And they need to feel, they need to see this world as a safe, healthy, loving, supporting, inclusive place where everybody belongs. So only if they feel that, only if they have the sense of that, they can fully develop, they can healthy develop at the end. So, you know what, when children fit, when children feel that they are loved and welcomed in their communities, they see it's something bigger than themselves. They see that they are part of bigger picture, that they are a little puzzle in this big puzzle, but without the little puzzles, no big puzzles are beautiful, right? So they feel that they belong. That sense of belonging is what actually makes us whole. And I work in this community with different families for more than 20 years. And many of my families that I work with are new immigrants. And also I am a new immigrant too, you know, I was. So I hear this story again and again and again. That people are in different parts of their settlements, in different stages, but they all have this empty feeling in here, something is missing in there, they told me. And so I tell them, this is where the roots of your previous community was. This is where the roots were. And then you pull them out. And now you need to grow new roots, new community where you are. You need to connect with people. You need to make yourself whole so that your children have an opportunity to grow whole. And, you know, like little humans. I just need to tell you a little bit about little humans, because parenting is a full-time job, the most important job you're ever going to have. And the position comes with the long hours, night shifts regularly, with no breaks, no vacations, no holidays, no support, no appreciation. And yeah, you're expected to do perfect. So no stress. I mean, no pressure at all. So anyway, little humans in a world of nature are the most helpless creatures, and for the longest time among all mammals, because they come with only about 30% of their brains developed, and then they need another 70% to develop. So science for a long time tried to decide, okay, so why is it happening so? And I remember when I was still at university 100 years ago, a Swiss zoologist, Adolf Portman, he had a theory that it may be because the children's brain, the human children's brain, is supposed to soak all the culture in after they're born. So his theory was that that part of the brain is supposed to develop fully with interactions, with social interactions of the world where they are coming from, where they're coming to. So I think that the best way that you can help your children develop in full is to become connected yourself. And I know that nowadays it's like this thing, pandemic. And I know that you're going to say, but we are all locked in. We cannot go anywhere, whatever. Here we are. We have Zoom now. I mean, come and register for Burnaby Family Life programs. We have so many programs waiting for you, and on Zoom now. We have parenting programs and children's programs, settlement programs and counseling. We have everything on Zoom. And, you know, I do not like Zoom that much. I mean, you know that between me and technology, there is no love lost. But now we are on Zoom. It's working. It's great. I can talk to you. You can talk to me. I cannot see you. You can see me. But, you know, sometimes we can see all together. And there is no way that somebody should stay at home, lonely, isolated, not connected, scared, frustrated, and whatever not. Remember the cortisol. Remember the immune system and the belly fat. So Let's get connected. If you don't want to stay on Zoom all the time, you can also go to the park. Go to the parks where other children bring their parents to socialize with. So socialize with other parents, because you know what? Your kids are going to play with their kids, and then they're gonna study with their kids. Then they're gonna grow up with their kids, and then they're gonna party with their kids. And guess what? One day when your young teenager presents you with his first party invitation, you're gonna be a cool parent, and you're gonna say, yep, you can go, with a smile, not even blinking, because you know the kids who are going to be there. And more than that, you know parents who are going to be supervising those kids. And the best thing that I can suggest to you is volunteer. Please volunteer. Because Canada is a country of immigrants, that is a country of volunteers too. People volunteer here all the time. That was so surprising to me when I came here. I never saw, and I traveled a lot, so many people volunteering all the time. So volunteer and bring your children with you. Show them that community is not only supportive and inclusive, community is something that also counts on you. And nowadays, when children are exposed to so much violence and threats from everywhere, people feel, my clients, they always ask me, how do I raise them so that they feel stronger, to resent that. And, that's a big topic. So we leave it for parenting class, but I just want to tell you this. What is the best way to raise your child's self-confidence and self-esteem? Then to show them that this world not only include them, accept them, love them, support them, but also count on them. Feeling that you are trusted with something and counted on, it's the best way how you raise your self-esteem and your child's self-esteem too. So bring them to volunteer. And for you not to say that I only talk a talk and don't do a walk, I do volunteer for Maywood Community School for 60 years now. My family too, and my grandchild, when he was only 6 months old, did his first volunteer duty last year. We went, all of us, to volunteer on the flea market, and Luca was there to entertain people and share smiles and bring people to a Maywood table and whatever not. And we all felt great, because I started volunteering in the Maywood school just when my daughter started kindergarten, and I did not know anyone. Maywood wasn't even a community school at that time, but Mrs. George's classroom was a community classroom because she was a visionary. So they taught me how to be. They taught me what Canadians are and what Canadians do. And they taught me what are the ways around here, and all these tiny little things that every immigrant should know. For example, how to make a Canadian traditional cake, and how to bake a turkey, and whatever not, other very important things at that time for me. And they made my family feel, sorry about my English, included, welcome, accepted, loved. And that's what we are, even now. And so then we start volunteering, and we are still doing it. We try to include everyone. We try to do our part now to support people who are new in this community, or people who are not and need support still. And that's how I chose my job. I wanted to do this job because of that, because of Maywood and the Maywood village, because Maywood is my extended family and my other home. And so I chose to be a family life education facilitator. I love this job. And I just hope that I'm going to see you in my programs, in other programs, all around the community where you are, in the parks where I am now learning again how to climb the climbers and whatever. And I surely hope that I'm going to see you sometimes. And until then, please get connected. Do not get lost, and stay safe. Thank you. And Gayle, please continue.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Maya. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit more about benefits of the community, and both Sinem and Maya have talked about so many of them, but I'll start with saying that a lot of people think a community is a place, and it can be a place, but it's also, of course, a group of people, a social group outside of one's family. who stays in touch. Often they're in close proximity, but nowadays we know they're all over the world. They're on Zoom, like Maya was just saying, and we have worldwide communities now. But communities can allow people in them to feel more connected to the community and the people in them. And the community and the connections within it can, of course, be a support and a way of encouragement for those members when they need that. And you know what else? This is the most exciting part, I think, that you might not know about, is that community, being connected in community, actually helps us live happier and longer lives, literally. So I want to talk to you a bit more about that. My name is Gayle Beavil. I'm a community school coordinator in Burnaby. And actually I worked at Maywood, and I was lucky to meet Maya there many, many years ago as a parent and a facilitator for Burnaby Family Life. And so in my job, I get to help build relationships in the school and in the community. I get to help create and bring in programs that I think the community will benefit from. So because of that, I need to build relationships. So I know the kids, I know the families, I know the community. And the other thing I'm really passionate about is hosting groups and building empathy and understanding between each other, because that's how we learn about each other and learn about the world. And my master's thesis was on care and connection as a foundation for learning for kids. So that drew me to community schools, because in community schools, I knew that we would put care and connection in the center of decision making. So tonight I want to talk to you about how to build community connections and why these things are so important to us. So I wanted you to first think of a time when you really felt part of a community. So it could be as a child, it could be in school, it could have been in a social group. So just try and think back to a time like that and think about, how did you feel? What were some of the things that you felt while you were in that group? So I bet that most of you are thinking things like some really beautiful positive emotions, like feeling included, feeling understood and happy, respected, all of those kinds of things. And by building positive relationships in the community, we actually gain positive emotions. And those positive emotions are actually life-changing. Maya talked a little bit about this when she was talking. And when we're having the positive emotions, we're not having the large amounts of cortisol and all those stress hormones. So when we're building relationships in the community, we gain those positive emotions, and they've proven to be life-changing. So we get those from being heard, being shown that we belong, like both Sinem and Maya talked about, being able to be yourself and be accepted. You might get this when you're trying to move toward a goal or values that are important to you. You can be in a community that helps you do that. And through all of these things, we gain positive emotions. We also get really practical things from being in community. So we get things like support for your family. Both Maya and Sinem talked about that. Support for your family through the friendships that you make. We gain references through our volunteer work and service and connections for future job opportunities. That's a really practical benefit of being in community. And we gain understanding and empathy for those who are different from ourselves. And we gain other caring people in the lives of our children and family. And Maya talked about that too, that our kids need caring people of all ages in their lives. There's a really great study, and you might want to watch the TED Talk on this. And it's called "What Makes a Good Life? Lessons from the longest study on happiness." And it's the longest longitudinal study ever done. And it's been going on for 80 years now. And they followed 724 men. And since they were young men, and they found all kinds of incredible things that happen over this time as they followed them in their lives, their marriages, their friendships. They found that, for example, they found that people that were happiest in their relationships in their 50s were the happiest and healthiest in their 80s. Their brain function was better, their memories were better. They found that the people in the happiest and healthiest caring relationships were people where they felt that they could count on the other person in good or bad times. It didn't mean that they never had fights or arguments. They definitely did, but they knew that they could count on that person. They also found things like in retirement, that when people retired, they had their, when they were in their work life, they had lots of work mates, work connections. And when they retired, they worked really hard to make those playmates in retirement. So they stayed connected even after they stopped working. And I know I've definitely seen some people when they retire from something and not retire to something. So they just drop those connections. And it's really sad to see the difference. So relationships in the community make us healthier and happier, and they help us thrive in life, not just survive. So we can also look at what happens when you have low social connections. So when you look at people that have low social connections, or not very many at all, there is about 1/4 of people that say they have no one in their lives with whom they can talk about their deepest feelings, and no one they can be themselves with, and no one they can count on. So 1/4 of these people, and these people report being lonely, and they're found to have more social anxiety, more likely to be depressed, and more likely to be angry or even violent. So those people that have no connections, and there's a really great TED Talk on the power and science of social connection. And Emma Sapola is the person who does that TED Talk. And I think it'll be referenced in the talk here. So she finds that this is incredible, that she talks about reports from different research that low connection is actually worse for us than smoking, obesity, or high blood pressure. So our mortality, our life, the length of our life is affected by a lack of social connections, and many studies are showing these same results. So what's incredible to me is, if we know this, and we're starting to really see this in science over and over again, what are we doing about it? You know, we go to the doctor and we get checkups for our, we get our blood pressure and we get some blood taken and we weigh ourselves and talk about our diet. But are we talking about our social connections? Are we talking about how are our relationships? Do you have some friends? Do you have some connections? And we need to take care of that part of our lives. So she talks about in this same TED Talk, talks about studies who find that people that have positive social connections have a 50% increased chance of living a long and healthy life than those who do not have strong social connections. So we need to get out there and connect to people. And it's not about the number of connections we have, it's about the quality of our connections. So I was thinking, well, what does a good social connection look like? It doesn't mean necessarily just because you talk to someone or know someone, there you have a good, strong social connection. So think about, maybe again, think about in a relationship that you really value. What do you get from that person? So what are the what happens between you? What are the elements of that relationship that are so positive? And what research has found is, again, it's the idea that you can count on that person in good or bad. You can trust them to hold your confidences, trust them to be there when you need them. And that this is a really important one too, that you can be yourself and be accepted. And you're both actively involved in the relationship. So this is also, to me, incredible too. I love this science stuff. I'm kind of a science nerd about this, but just by participating in community has positive effects. So things like being involved in a group over a regular time has positive effects, such as reducing negative self-talk and reducing depressive symptoms just by being in a group. And a group, by that I mean, and I know Sinem talked about those wonderful groups that she started to join. She was going in every group she could. And Sinem, I bet you're going to be the healthiest person. So that's wonderful. It's true. Like your physical health is going to benefit from those connections, as well as all those other wonderful social benefits that you're going to get. So groups could be simple things like going to weekly meetings of a support group. It could be just meeting with supportive friends, a girls group. It could be a member of a sports team. You could be in a book club. So we've got some nice words coming in about friendships I can see. And Solange is saying sharing, learning, and acceptance. Sandy says feeling valued. So thank you for saying those things. Exactly. Feeling valued for who you are. Right. So, so there are mental and physical health benefits to being in a group. So in an article on positive community, Nicole Celestine, she talks about findings from another study that they did in Iceland about high school kids that they were trying to deal with a problem of excessive alcohol and smoking pot consumption in these teens. And so what they decided to do was increase access to community programs in this community. And the results were astounding. So this was how they decided to try and deal with this. So over several years, the number of teens who reported excessive drinking of alcohol dropped from 42% to 5%. And this was the one intervention, was the access to these community programs. The number of teens who reported smoking pot dropped from 17% to 7%. And those smoking cigarettes went from 23% to just 3%. So of course, some of the reasons for the drop in negative behaviors are that the youth had activities that they were interested in, and in those activities, they could connect with other kids. So they found support. They felt they belonged. These are just like some of the things we've heard from people and that you were thinking about in the beginning. They had caring and supportive leaders of the group. That's really, really important. They had others to talk with. And they had invitations to these other beneficial activities so they could avoid the negative activities. So you going out and finding ways to connect and groups to join, you're finding these positive things, and that will take up the space that maybe negative things will take up if you don't find those connections. So I think that's really, really important too. So, and you can find more than one community to belong to. There's several types. You can be in many, many groups. So this is so valuable to our life satisfaction. And this is really interesting too, that when we're in these groups, we create more and more positive emotions. And more positive emotions create more positive emotions. Some of you might have heard of the upward spiral. And this is something that happens all the time, that when we have positive emotions, it makes us feel more positive. And then when we feel more positive, we have more positive emotions. So that's why you might hear of things like doing gratitude practices. I never really understood. I thought, oh, that's nice. You know, you write down what you're grateful for every day. But now I know physiologically, we're training ourselves to look for the good, especially at a time right now. We can train ourselves even in this very trying time. I'm not belittling it. I'm not saying it's not a trying time, but we can train ourselves to gradually look for those positive things. And when the positive emotions are inside us and are growing, it leaves less room for those unneeded negative emotions. Sometimes we need negative emotions because they keep us safe, right? And they help us deal with things, but sometimes we don't. So if we look at what happens in our brains, those positive emotions create more positive emotions, and we get things like dopamine and serotonin going through us. And so those positive emotions like gratitude, joy, a sense of awe, compassion, amusement, love, pride in oneself, the happiness hormones start flowing. And the other thing that those happiness hormones do is they make us want to connect with others even more. So if you want more about this upward spiral idea, you can read basically anything by Barbara Fredrickson, who's a scientist, and her book Positivity is a really, really good one. So it's not just fluffy feel-good things. This is real science. So, and when we focus on positive emotions, our brains actually work differently. So when we have negative emotions like stress or anger and worry, we're often in fight or flight mode. And so, you know, like when your kids are freaking out, they're having a temper tantrum, you can't reason with them. That's not, none of us can reason in those conditions. So when we have those emotions, like I said, some of them are very important and we need them at times to protect ourselves. But what we can't do when we have those emotions is we can't think clearly, we can't think creatively. They're not helpful. So you can imagine if when we're parents or we're trying to deal with something important in our lives, even in a work situation or a child that needs our help, if we are in those stressful conditions all the time, we won't be able to be calm and reason. What we will likely do is react because that's what our brain's doing. So we might do things like yell or hit or run. And if we're being threatened by a saber-toothed tiger, then that's super helpful. But if we're stuck in traffic and we're feeling those same emotions, that right? It's not, that's not helpful to us. And our brain doesn't differentiate. Is this a need for survival, or is this just me being frustrated? So that's really, really important to know. And what happens when we're in those relationships, we're getting those positive dopamine and those hormones in our bodies and not the stress hormones. So one way to create these positive emotions is through engagement in relationships, of course, and even short connections are really, really powerful. This is amazing as well. Sorry, I keep saying that, but this is amazing because once you know it, like Sinem, when you talked about going to the park, when she was talking about going to the park, she is going to be such a strong person because research has found, Jane Dutton especially has done a lot of research in this, that those high quality connections, she calls them HQCs, actually are powerfully strengthening to us. So these happen when we're in a conversation with someone and we're both engaged, we're both participating in the conversation. You feel heard and seen by the other person, and you get kind of a zest, right? See if you can think of a time when that's happening. And I know lots of people are posting hearts and are recognizing this feeling. So when you talk to someone, have you had that feeling where you're engaged with someone? It could be a stranger. It could be someone in your family. It could be someone you know very well, but where you leave the conversation and you go, I'm just getting shivers talking about it actually. And you say to yourself, wow, I love talking to that person. That person is so engaging, or I always have so much fun when we're together. Or what if it's to a stranger? I'll tell you a story about a stranger. I love talking to strangers. Anyone who knows me knows that I do. I always learn so much about other people, and I didn't know that these were actual things, these high quality connections were actually making me healthier. So now I talk to even more strangers. But when I take my mom to dialysis, she needs dialysis 3 times a week. And I started to notice, it's the regular crew, the other people that also get dialysis, and everyone looks kind of sad and, weary, and everyone's wearing a mask, and it is sad. It's hard. Some people are in very, very rough shape, like my mom. But, they love it when I talk to them. And my mom's always like, why are you talking to all these people? It's like, well, they love it. So what I would do is, start to say hi to them. And then the next time I might say, hi, how are you? And then I might make a comment about something that they're wearing, and then they'll start asking me back. And even the most grumpy people that look like they're the most grumpy people, they just want to be noticed almost every single time. They just want someone to notice them and say hi to them. So one time, my favorite sort of fellow, now that we have a little flirtatious relationship, he's probably about 90, and I heard him speaking one time, and he had a Scottish accent. And I said to him, oh, is that a Scottish accent I hear? And he says, oh, yes, it is. Why, And I said, well, my background is from Scotland. My maiden name is McLean. And so we started talking about that. I joked that I had married an Englishman, which, England and Scotland, there's some conflict there. So it's he and I have a lovely time. Every time we talk, he's asked me all kinds of things. I know the names of the nurses and all the people that are going there. And I'm telling you, it brightens my day. I know it brightens their day. But then I realize these are those high quality connections that are happening. So that even with a stranger, and I see Sangeeta is saying that high quality connections are so strongly felt during the pandemic. The power of a smile, right? And you can see the smile in our eyes, right? Even if we're wearing the masks, for sure. Thanks, Sangeeta. I absolutely agree with that. And then a quality connection with a staff member. Maybe you're starting to think of them now in your life, that maybe you're having them more than you even realized. A staff member, I went by the other day and waved at her and from the hallway, and her kids were out of the room, and I could tell she just looked really upset. Her eyes look kind of watery, and she's a young, quite new teacher, and we know each other, but we're not super friendly necessarily. We respect each other. But this time I went in and I sat down by her and I said, just sit for a second. And then she just started to cry, and she just felt so overwhelmed, so much with COVID and trying to relate to kids with a mask on, worrying about health, trying to get the curriculum taught. Our photocopier was broken. She was just like at the end. And so I just listened to her, and I said, I made sure she knew what an amazing teacher she is. And I wasn't just saying that, I meant it. And I said, I can help you. I can help you with this. And this is one of the ways you can get into a high quality relationship, is help someone with a task. There's a few ways to do it. And I said, I can copy this for you in the one at my office. I'll go do it. I'll bring it to you. And she's like, oh no, Gayle, there won't be time. And I've got to do this. And I said, don't worry, I'll do it. So anyway, I took care of that. We just had this time. We both felt heard. I felt great because I knew I was helping her. She felt great because I stopped and noticed her feelings. So those are just some relationships, the little connections that I'm sure you've had many of. So a high quality connection, you can be the one to start them. You can do it. So don't wait for someone else. You can go and start up a conversation. You just have to be engaging fully. So if you got your phone, put it down, give your attention to the person. You could just be curious about them. Another way is you could just help them with a task, and make sure that you're being vulnerable, you're being honest, and show that you're building trust with them. And another way to do it is through play or an invitation to have fun, do something social. So those are some of the ways you can start those little connections. And the science part, the really cool part, is that right away, the benefits to you is an oxytocin release. So that means your anxiety goes down and your sympathetic nervous system activity goes up. which is good. That's the one that makes us feel calm and we can be measured and even creative. And it fuels more affiliative behavior. So it makes us actually want to go out and connect with more people. And our blood pressure lowers right during that time. You probably, I see, you probably have noticed that. I see some people are talking about that with comments. So it's pretty exciting stuff. So being in community, then it also helps take care of us too. So we're getting some of those benefits from that. That spiral of positive emotions, that's good for us. It's good for our health. And the gaining more affiliative behavior is good for us. And those good hormones, the dopamine, the serotonin, those happiness hormones, that's really good for us too. And if you think of it like this, so if we are happier and less stressed, we will do things like sleep better. And then we can be more calm and less likely to react. We can think more clearly, make better decisions. And research finds that better sleep helps us do these things and reduces our chances of doing those unhealthy things to make us try and fall asleep kind of falsely, right? Like alcohol and drugs and unhealthy food. So if we're falling asleep naturally, we've had a full connected day, we've had those good hormones, we fall asleep naturally, then we're better able to parent our kids or better able to think more clearly. So the absence of those negative things in our lives make us make better decisions and feel better. And so taking care of ourselves helps us be more able to be in community, and then being more able to be in community helps us be better able to care of ourselves. So it's a big circle, and it's a part a way to get more into community then can also be to try and be more rested. That I know that doesn't seem like a natural connection, but it is. So focusing on those positive emotions, like taking a few minutes of doing gratitudes each day, talking about the highs of your day with your kids at the dinner table, wondering about what that person's story is. All those things are focusing on positive emotions and trying to have as many of those high quality connections as possible. Those things are actually going to make your day-to-day life better and your longevity better. So that's amazing, amazing news. So we also, like we talked about, I think both Sinem and Maya talked about this, that children need other caring adults in their lives besides their parents. So for preteens and teens, they feel happier and more hopeful. They do better in school, and they're less likely to smoke and drink to try and fit in. They need those other caring adults to bounce ideas off, to laugh with, to seek support and advice from. Another thing to try and create those connections for your child, a good way to do that is think about your children and what are their strengths? What do they love to do? Do you have someone in your life right now, another adult or an older child, that you can connect your child to, so that they can focus on those strengths and build those strengths and become connected to that other caring adult? If you don't have someone in your life right now, then another reason to get out into the community and make those connections, right? That's going to help your children, because the more caring adults they can have and older children in their life, the better they are. Like, it makes me think of that beautiful metaphor that Sinem did with the frame, and how you add all the connections in, it becomes strong, right? And it's becomes places where you can fit those other things in life. So don't forget about those quick chats with strangers. You can do it. Think of how, I like to think too about those positive emotions, like compassion, empathy, understanding, fairness, perspective. If we all spent more time on those in our lives, we'll be healthier and happier, and our neighborhoods would be healthier and happier. And empathy, like Michelle Borba says, makes violence and cruelty unthinkable. So that's just a beautiful vision for our community, I think. So things you can do, there's just a couple of minutes left here before we go on to our next part. Talk to other people, greet them, even though you've got your mask on, look them in the eye. You can still look at people and say hi, hello, even if you're just walking by, greet people. Try those high quality connections, help them do something, do a task or move toward a goal. Give them your full attention. Invite them to have fun with you. Those are all ways you can do it. Volunteer, like Maya said, absolutely. That makes our heart feel good. Plus it's good for the community. Plus you're making connections that will help you in life and your job, maybe connect to your kids. Put your phone down in the doctor's office, you know, or anywhere. Sometimes you want to make eye contact with people and everyone's on their phone. So try and put your phone down sometime and look around, look who's around you. Get outside in nature, apply for a Burnaby neighborhood small grant, get a friend together and get your community together somehow. Be with others. When you think of the joyful times in your lives, you're usually with someone else, right? So get out there and make some connections. And I think that's about all the time we have. I want to thank you so much and for being here. And I really hope you got some information out of this session. So thank you very much for having me. And now we're going to move on to Vicky, and she's going to talk a little bit about the public library.
Thank you so much, Gayle. I am speaking to everyone tonight from the McGill Library, which is in North Burnaby. And before I continue, I just want to really send appreciation to all of our speakers tonight. And then I want to talk about the library a little bit. What I really want to talk about is you, the people at home, all the people that come and visit us. And we're open, we're here for you. Sorry. So I'm going to show you some of the people that are here in the library. I'm here tonight after we closed. We just closed a little while ago here at McGill Library. And I'm going to introduce you to someone. If you come to the library, you might recognize her. This is Catherine. Catherine is the children's librarian at McGill Library, and she is one of our super connectors. She lives in the community. She shops in the community. She goes to yoga in the community. And when you come to McGill Library, even though she's going to have a mask over her face, she's going to want to connect with you. Now, I know not all of you are comfortable yet coming back to the library. So we do have phone services and email services. We'll get that shared on your screen. But I have to tell you a story about the pandemic. So everything closed. It was a tough time. It still is a tough time. We got very excited when you started to phone us. We got very excited when you emailed us. So keep doing that. Sorry. The other thing I want to let you know is that we're trying to make it more easy to get to know us. We know that some of you out there might find maybe you're just new to the community. Maybe you don't know about, libraries and institutions in general can be scary places. So the library is committed to welcoming everyone. And here is our library card, which Gayle, if you notice, it says, be curious. Yes, we're curious about you. We want to be curious with you. So this library card, you can now get it with no identification needed. You don't have to show us anything. You come to us and say, I want a library card, and you leave with a library card. The other thing is that for some of our LGBTQ2IS plus transgender folks, or any folks who their ID might not match, or they might have a new name, that's good too. You tell us what name you want on your library account, that's the name you're going to get. So please come and visit us. And I'm going to now pass it back to Gayle, who's going to continue on with our evening. Thank you, everyone.
Oh my God, what an amazing session to close this PLE 2021 with. I am so, so grateful to each one of you. I think it was just amazing. And, you know, I had goosebumps throughout listening to each one of you. And I think that is why Vicky was so emotional, because it was, I think, a beautiful, beautiful session. So thank you so much. Thank you for sharing your own experiences. Thank you for sharing the knowledge with all our viewers today. And thank you for all the work you do to build such a connected community here in Burnaby. I am very proud, I'm very lucky, and I feel very privileged because I get to work with these amazing ladies and these beautiful human beings. Thank you, Gayle. Thank you, Sinem, and thank you, Maya. I also want to thank the speakers that we've had for the last 3 Thursdays. I thank you all. I want to thank all our viewers who have been joining us every Thursday at 6:30 p.m. sharp. And we hope you found this helpful, and we hope you got some interesting information, some new knowledge, which you can use in your everyday lives as you look after your family and yourself. Look for resources at bflgrowscommunity.org. All the references, all the books, all the amazing resources that our speakers have shared with you are all over there. We will have our recordings available very soon. And also, I will encourage each one of you to check out bflgrowscommunity.org. Maya already spoke about it, but our registration process for the new parenting programs has begun. And so it's pretty easy. If you have any challenges, our phone numbers are up on our website. Dial in and we'll be happy to answer your questions. These programs start very soon, so don't wait to register. We do fill up pretty quickly. And of course, you will also find all the wonderful family resources at your local Burnaby Public Library. And Vicky, you've done an amazing job in sharing the information about all the different libraries that we have in Burnaby. And thank you. You guys do an amazing job, and we're very lucky to have you. I said it in my very first session that we have, I think, some of the best libraries in the world here in Burnaby. And I think everyone will agree with that. So once again, a reminder, recordings of all our sessions are going to be available, will be posted by the end of the week at bflgrowscommunity.org. And I also want to thank our funders at BC Ministry of Children and Family Development and everyone who has helped us get the word out about these sessions so we could reach more parents. And so we look forward to reconvening with you next year for the Parenting Learning Event 2022. Stay in touch with us for more details. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely evening.